my brother said, "You're just the bookkeeper." Then my receipts took his restaurant away. My name is Megan Holloway. I was 35 years old when my brother stood inside the restaurant I paid for, pointed at me in front of his staff, his investors, his fiancée, and our entire family, and said, "You're just the bookkeeper." He said it with a smile. That was the part that made everyone else comfortable. If he had screamed, people might have noticed the cruelty. If he had cursed, someone might have stepped in. But Caleb had always known how to make humiliation sound like charm. He could cut you open with a butter knife and make the room laugh before you realized you were bleeding. The restaurant was packed that night. Polished concrete floors, warm brass lights, dark green booths, a long walnut bar with glass shelves behind it, servers in black aprons moving between tables with trays of champagne, a small jazz trio near the window, a banner by the entrance that read Hollow Table South End, Grand Opening. Underneath, in smaller gold letters, founded by Chef Caleb Holloway. I stared at those words for a long moment. Founded by Chef Caleb Holloway. Not Holloway family, not Megan and Caleb Holloway. Not even Caleb Holloway, with support from the sister who had signed the lease, bought the ovens, paid the contractors, covered payroll, registered the trademark, opened the business account, negotiated the liquor license, and kept the first location alive through 3 almost bankrupt months. Just Caleb, my little brother, the chef, the face, the man who could burn through $12,000 in operating cash and call it creative growth. He stood near the bar in a charcoal suit, hair styled, sleeves tailored, smile perfect. His fiancée, Lena, had one hand tucked around his arm. My mother stood beside them, already teary, already proud. My father was behind her, quiet as always, holding a glass he hadn't touched. The investors sat at the front table. Victor Lang was in the center. 55, silver hair, navy suit, no wasted expression. He had spent 30 years buying into restaurants that either became chains or cautionary tales. Beside him was his attorney, a woman with a red leather folder and a pen that looked expensive enough to have its own insurance. They were there because Caleb had told them he owned Hollow Table. They were there because Caleb had promised them 35% of a business he had no legal authority to sell. And I was there because I wanted to give my brother one last chance to tell the truth before the truth started speaking for itself. I walked toward him with my purse on my shoulder, and the folder still locked in my car. At first, he pretended not to see me. That was Caleb's first move whenever reality entered a room. Ignore it and hope someone prettier distracted the crowd. I stopped beside the banner. "Caleb," he turned slowly like I was a guest he didn't recognize. "Megan," he said too brightly, "you made it. I almost didn't know I was invited." His smile tightened. Lena looked between us. "Of course you're invited. Your family." I looked at her. Poor Lena. She believed that word meant something in our house. I turned back to Caleb and pointed at the banner. "Founded by Chef Caleb Holloway," he gave a small laugh. "Marketing, Meg, don't start. Marketing is when you make something sound better, not when you make it false." The attorney at Victor's table glanced up. Caleb saw it. His smile stayed in place, but his eyes changed. A warning passed through them, quick and sharp. "Can we not do this tonight?" "Do what?" "Make everything about paperwork." A few staff members nearby slowed down. My mother noticed. Then Lena. Then Victor. Caleb lowered his voice. "You're making this awkward." "I'm asking why my name isn't anywhere in the restaurant I paid for." That was when he laughed. Not loud, just enough. The kind of laugh that tells a room they are allowed to dismiss you. "Megan," he said. And then he turned slightly so the staff, the investors, and our family could hear him. "Don't embarrass yourself, you're just the bookkeeper." The room quieted. Not completely. Restaurants never go fully silent. Ice still clicked in glasses. A server still whispered behind the bar. Somewhere in the kitchen, a ticket printer kept spitting orders no one was listening to. But the air changed. My mother closed her eyes like I had started the problem. My father looked down into his glass. Lena's hand slipped from Caleb's arm. I could have shouted. I could have told everyone right there that the man calling me a bookkeeper had missed 5 vendor payments in the past year. That he had once spent payroll money on a custom chef's jacket photo shoot. That he had cried in my office when the first location was 6 days from eviction. That every plate leaving that kitchen touched a system I built and a bill I paid. But I had learned a long time ago that families like mine use your emotion against you. So I stayed calm. Caleb took my silence as permission. He smiled wider. Receipts don't make you an owner, Megan. That sentence did something to me. It did not break me. It organized me. I looked at him, then at the investors, then at the banner with his name on it. You're right, I said. Receipts don't. Caleb's shoulders relaxed. Then I added, contracts do. His smile disappeared. I turned around, walked out of Hollow Table South End, crossed the parking lot, unlocked my car, and lifted the black accordion folder from the passenger seat. Inside were 6 years of my life. Receipts, contracts, trademark registration, commercial lease, equipment financing, payroll records, email agreements, bank statements, every document my brother thought was beneath him, every document that proved the restaurant was mine. But before I tell you what happened when I walked back into that room, you need to understand how I became the kind of sister who bought her brother a restaurant and still had to prove she belonged inside it. I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina, in a house where responsibility was assigned at birth and affection was negotiated afterward. Caleb was 4 years younger than me. He was beautiful from the start. I don't mean that in a strange way. I mean, Caleb was the kind of child adults liked immediately. Big brown eyes, soft curls, crooked smile, endless appetite for attention. When he spilled juice, people laughed. When I spilled juice, my mother handed me a paper towel and told me to clean the floor before it got sticky. My mother, Evelyn Holloway, believed children came in types. Caleb was gifted. I was capable. Gifted children got encouragement. Capable children got tasks. By the time I was 12, I knew how to balance my mother's checkbook because she said numbers made her nervous. By 14, I was calling the electric company to ask for extensions because my father's overtime had been cut. By 16, I was watching Caleb after school, making dinner twice a week, and filling out my own scholarship applications at the kitchen table while my mother told relatives Caleb might be a famous chef one day because he made scrambled eggs with paprika. My father, Darren, was not cruel. That would have required force. He was just absent in the way quiet men can be absent while sitting 3 feet away from you. He worked for a plumbing supply company, came home tired, ate what was put in front of him, and disappeared into television. When my mother praised Caleb, he smiled. When she leaned on me, he said nothing. Silence was his love language. Unfortunately, it was also his cowardice. Caleb did love cooking. That part was real. At 13, he made pasta from scratch after watching a cooking competition online. At 15, he learned how to sear steak better than most adults. At 17, he could make a lemon tart that made my mother cry. But talent without discipline becomes another thing people have to manage. Caleb never finished anything that stopped flattering him. He dropped out of culinary school after 1 semester because the instructor didn't understand creativity. He quit his first restaurant job because prep work was beneath his vision. He got fired from a catering company after arguing with the owner about plating at a corporate luncheon where the client had requested sandwiches. Every time, my mother found a way to make it noble. He's sensitive, she said. He has standards. He's not meant to work under people. He has own place. The phrase started when Caleb was 24. His own place. At first, it sounded like a dream. Then it became a family project. Then it became my problem. At that point, I was 28, working as a certified bookkeeper for small businesses around Greenville. I handled contractors, salons, cafes, dental offices, and one very disorganized landscaping company whose owner kept receipts in a tackle box. I was good at my job because I understood something most dreamers refused to accept. Numbers are not the enemy of dreams. They are the ground under them. Ignore the ground long enough, and the dream falls through. Caleb called me one night after losing another kitchen job. Megan, he said, voice low and wounded, I can't keep doing this. I was at my apartment eating reheated soup over my laptop while reconciling a client's bank feed. What happened? Chef Martin fired me. Why? He said I was late too many times. Were you? That's not the point. It sounds like the point, he sighed dramatically. You always do that. Do what? Make everything about facts. I looked at the spreadsheet in front of me. Facts are usually involved, Caleb. He got quiet. Then he said, I need my own restaurant. I closed my eyes. There it was, the family mythology spoken out loud. You don't have savings. I know. You don't have credit. I know. You don't have a business plan. That's why I'm calling you. I laughed once because I thought he had to be joking. He wasn't. The next Sunday, my mother invited me to dinner. That alone should have warned me. She made pot roast, which meant she wanted something. Caleb was there. My father was there. Everyone acted slightly too casual. After dessert, my mother folded her hands on the table and said, "Your brother has an opportunity." I looked at Caleb. He stared at his plate. "What kind of opportunity?" "There's a little restaurant space downtown," she said. "It used to be called Maribel's. The owner retired." "I know the space." Caleb leaned forward. "It's perfect, Meg. Small dining room, good kitchen bones, walkable area, lunch traffic, dinner potential. I already have menu ideas." "Do you have money?" His face changed. My mother stepped in. "You know how Caleb is." I hated that sentence. It had carried Caleb across every gap he refused to cross himself. You know how Caleb is. Meaning, don't expect him to change. Meaning, lower the standard. Meaning, be the bridge again. I put my fork down. "How much?" Caleb looked hopeful. "The landlord wants a personal guarantee. First month, deposit, build-out costs, equipment upgrades, permits, inventory. I'd need maybe," he glanced at Mom, "$200 to start. $200? He swallowed. 200,000. I stared at him. My mother rushed in. "Not as a gift, as an investment." "In what?" "A man who got fired for being late." Caleb flinched like I had slapped him. My mother's face hardened. "That was unnecessary." "No, Mom. Opening a restaurant is unnecessary when the future owner can't show up for brunch service on time." Caleb pushed back from the table. "I knew you'd do this." "Do what?" "Act like I'm a failure. I'm asking you to prove you won't be." My father finally spoke. "Meg, maybe you could look at the numbers." Just that. Not Caleb. "Maybe you should get stable first." Not, "Evelyn, this is too much to ask." Just, "Meg, look at the numbers," because that was what I did. I looked at numbers. I carried weight. I made things possible and then watched other people stand in the light. I should have said no. I know that now. But here is what people misunderstand about enablers. Most of us are not stupid. We see the pattern. We know the danger. We know the person asking for help has burned bridges behind them, but sometimes we also remember the child they were before the pattern hardened. I remembered Caleb at 9, standing on a chair to make pancakes for my birthday. I remembered him at 12, saving the corner brownie for me because he knew I liked edges. I remembered him at 19, after he dropped out of culinary school, sitting in the garage crying because he thought he had ruined his life before it started. I thought, maybe structure will save him. Maybe ownership will mature him. Maybe if I build the frame, he can finally stand inside it. So I did what capable daughters do. I built the frame. The space downtown was worse than Caleb admitted, but better than I feared. The dining room had cracked tile, stained ceiling panels, and lighting that made everyone look mildly ill. But the kitchen had decent bones. The hood system needed work. The walk-in cooler was old but repairable. The location had foot traffic, parking nearby, and 3 office buildings within 2 blocks. I spent 6 weeks building a business plan. Caleb spent 6 weeks naming sauces. I negotiated with the landlord. Caleb tested recipes. I met with the bank. Caleb designed the logo on a napkin. I formed the LLC. Caleb picked the playlists. And when the bank refused him, as I knew it would, I signed personally. Commercial lease, Megan Holloway. Equipment financing, Megan Holloway. Initial operating account, funded by Megan Holloway. Trademark application for Hollow Table, filed by Megan Holloway. Caleb was listed as executive chef and operating manager. Not owner, not member, not partner. I was very clear about that. We sat at a folding table in the empty dining room 2 weeks before construction started. Dust floated in the light from the front windows. Caleb had brought coffee. I had brought documents. "This is the agreement," I said. He looked impatient already. "I trust you." "Trust signs things." He rolled his eyes. "Meg?" "No, listen, I am taking the financial risk. My credit, my savings, my signature. You run the kitchen, you manage day-to-day operations, you pay yourself a modest salary once cash flow stabilizes. For 2 years, you prove consistency. No missed shifts, no unauthorized spending, no vendor debt without approval. After 2 years, we revisit equity. He tapped his finger on the table. So it's not mine. It can become partly yours. But not now? No, not now. His jaw tightened. For a second, I saw pride fighting need. Need won. Fine. I slid the printed summary across the table. Read it. He skimmed. Caleb. What? Read it. He sighed and read. Then he signed. I signed after him. I scanned it that night and emailed both of us a copy. Subject line, Hollow Table Operating Agreement Summary. He replied with a thumbs up emoji. That thumbs up would become Exhibit F. The first year nearly killed me, not physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually maybe. Hollow Table opened in March with 26 seats, 1 bartender, 3 servers, 2 line cooks, a dishwasher, and Caleb in a white chef coat that made him look like every dream my mother had ever had. Opening night was chaotic, but promising. The food was good. I will never take that from him. Caleb could cook. He understood acid, salt, heat, texture. He made short ribs that tasted like patience. He made cornbread with charred scallion butter that people talked about for weeks. He could turn a plate of roasted carrots into something that made customers close their eyes. Food critics love a charming chef with a redemption story. Caleb gave them one. After years working in kitchens across the Carolinas, one local blog wrote, Chef Caleb Holloway has finally opened his own place. His own place. I read that sentence at midnight while sorting vendor invoices and told myself it did not matter. Good press was good for business. That became the excuse for everything. When a magazine called him the sole creative force behind Hollow Table, I said nothing because reservations jumped 30%. When he did a radio interview and said, I built this place from nothing, I said nothing because brunch sold out. When he told customers the restaurant was my baby, I said nothing because babies need cash flow and we were still bleeding. Then came the first payroll shortfall. It was a Thursday. I was at my office when Caleb called. We have a little timing issue. My stomach sank. How little? Payroll is due tomorrow. And we're short. How short? 8,000. I took off my glasses. Caleb, it was the linen contract and the seafood invoice. And I had to order the imported olive oil. You had to? It changes the whole dish. The dish doesn't matter if the cooks don't get paid. He went quiet. Then he said, Can you cover it just this once? Just this once. The most expensive phrase in the English language. I covered it. Then I covered a second payroll 3 months later. Then a vendor threat in month 7. Then sales tax penalties after Caleb forgot to send me 3 weeks of receipts because he had shoved them in a drawer under takeout menus. Every time I fixed it. Every time Caleb thanked me privately and erased me publicly. By the second year, Hollow Table was doing well. Not rich. Restaurants rarely are, no matter how full they look. But stable. We had repeat customers, local press, a strong dinner crowd, private event inquiries. A chef people recognized at the farmer's market. That was when Lena Brooks came in. She was a wedding photographer with a calm voice, sharp eyes, and a way of listening that made people confess more than they intended. She first came to Hollow Table to shoot a rehearsal dinner in the private room. Caleb flirted with her over dessert plating. She came back the next week for dinner with a friend. Then again, alone. Then Caleb started staying late after service for menu development, which apparently required cologne. I liked Lena immediately. That made everything harder. The first time we met, she found me in the tiny back office surrounded by invoices. You must be Megan, she said. I looked up. And you must be the reason Caleb brushed his hair before a Tuesday service. She laughed. It was real. I've heard so much about you. I waited. That sentence can go either way in families like mine. All good, she added. He said you help with the books. Help with the books. I looked past her into the hall where Caleb was pretending not to listen. Yes, I said, I help with the books. He gave me a grateful smile. I hated myself a little for accepting it. After Lena left, I cornered him by the walk-in. You need to tell her the truth. He avoided my eyes. I will. When? When it's serious. You're introducing her to mom on Sunday. That's different. No, Caleb. Different is telling a first date you're a chef. This is your girlfriend thinking you own a restaurant you don't own. He snapped the towel in his hand. Why do you always say it like that? Like what? Like I'm nothing. I'm saying the legal structure. No, you're saying I don't matter. I stared at him. Caleb, I have spent 2 years making sure you matter. He looked away. And that was the closest we came to truth until the night everything fell apart. The erasing became more aggressive after Lena. He had something to protect now, not the restaurant. The image. He started saying my investors before he had investors. He ordered new chef coats embroidered with Caleb Holloway. Founder, I found the invoice and asked him about it. He shrugged. It's branding. It's inaccurate. It's a coat. It's a statement. It's thread, Megan. Then he changed the restaurant's social media bio. Founded by Chef Caleb Holloway. I changed it back. He changed the password. When I asked for access, he said, "You don't need Instagram to do bookkeeping." I should have stopped it then. But stopping things requires choosing confrontation over stability. And I had mistaken stability for peace. The staff shifted with the story. New hires did not know me. They knew Caleb. They saw him greeting tables, tasting sauces, posing for photos, giving interviews. They saw me twice a week in the office with my laptop, asking for receipts and reminding managers about labor percentages. To them, I was finance. Administrative, necessary, maybe, but not central. One afternoon, a new assistant manager named Bryce stopped me at the kitchen door. "Sorry," he said, blocking my way. "Staff only past this point." I looked at him. "I know. You can leave invoices at the bar." A line cook froze. The bartender looked down. Caleb, standing near the expo station, heard him. He could have corrected it. He could have said, "She owns the place." He could have said, "She signs your paychecks." He could have said, "Get out of her way." Instead, he wiped a plate rim with a towel and said, "Bryce, she's fine. She does our books." She does our books. Not owner, not founder, not the person who guaranteed the lease that allowed Bryce to have a job. I walked past him into the office. I shut the door. For the first time since Hollow Table opened, I cried in that room. Not because Bryce blocked me, because Caleb let him. After that, I stopped correcting the small things and started documenting them. That is what bookkeepers do when people lie. We document. I saved screenshots of the social media bio. I saved the chef coat invoice. I saved emails where Caleb asked me to cover payroll. I saved the original operating agreement. I saved every bank transfer I made into the business account. I saved every vendor notice that arrived because Caleb had not told me a bill existed. I saved the trademark certificate when it arrived with my name on it, Hollow Table, registered mark, owner, Megan Holloway. I remember holding that certificate in my apartment and feeling something strange, not victory, protection. At the time, I did not know from what. The investor deal started as a rumor. A server mentioned it first. "Congrats on the second location," she said while I was reviewing tip-out discrepancies. I looked up. "What second location?" Her smile faded. "Oh, I thought Chef told you." Chef, not Caleb. Chef. I went to the office and checked the shared drive. Nothing. I checked the business email. No access. Of course. Then I checked Caleb's calendar because he had forgotten I still had admin permissions from when I set up his phone. There it was. Victor Lang, dinner. Expansion meeting. South End location walkthrough. Attorney review. My hands went cold. I called Caleb. No answer. I called again. No answer. Then I drove to the restaurant. He was at the bar with Lena looking at fabric swatches for something. Not napkins. Curtains maybe. I didn't care. "Office," I said. His face darkened. Lena looked up. "Everything okay?" "No," I said. Caleb followed me to the back office and shut the door. "What is wrong with you?" "You tell me." "Who is Victor Lang?" He exhaled. "Jesus, Megan." "Who is Victor Lang?" "An investor." "For what?" "Expansion." "What expansion?" He rubbed his forehead. "I was going to tell you." "No, you were going to let a server tell me." "That's not fair." "Fair is when the person whose name is on the lease knows there's a second location." He leaned against the desk. "This is exactly why I didn't say anything. Because I ask questions? Because you kill momentum." I protect momentum from running. Off a cliff. He laughed bitterly. Do you hear yourself? Yes, clearly. That's why this business is still open. His face hardened. I built this restaurant. No, Caleb, you cooked in it. The silence after that was ugly. Then he said very softly, You don't get it. People hate here because of me. They can only come here because of me. He opened the door. We're done. No. We are very much not done. But he walked out anyway. 2 days later, I got the proposal. Not from Caleb, from a printer. Caleb had sent a draft investor packet to the office printer at the first location and forgotten that the machine saved recent jobs. Tessa Grant, our sous chef, found it while printing prep sheets. Tessa was 32, quiet, sharp, with tattooed forearms and the patience of someone who had worked under too many dramatic men. She had been with us since month 5. She knew more about the kitchen's actual functioning than Caleb admitted. She walked into the office holding the packet. I don't know if I'm supposed to see this, she said. I took it. Hollow Table Group Expansion Proposal. Chef Caleb Holloway, founder and sole owner. Investment opportunity. 35% ownership stake. Use of funds. Second location launch. Projected valuation. $2.4 million. I read the line twice. Founder and sole owner. Then I read the signature block. Caleb Holloway, managing member. He was not managing member. He was not a member at all. He had created a company narrative out of air and was trying to sell pieces of it. Tessa watched my face. Is it bad? I looked at her. It's fraudulent. She nodded slowly. I thought so. That surprised me. You did? She shifted. Chef has been telling people he owns everything. But when vendors need actual answers, they ask for you. When payroll was late last spring, you fixed it. When the hood inspection failed, you handled it. When the dishwasher quit and Chef threw a pan, you were the one who stayed late calling temp agencies. I said nothing, and she added, people notice more than you think. I had not known how much I needed to hear that. That night, I called Patricia Wells. Patricia was a business attorney I had worked with on client matters. Late 40s, direct, allergic to nonsense. I sent her everything. The lease, the equipment financing, the operating agreement summary, the trademark certificate, the investor packet, the email trail. She called me 20 minutes later. Megan, yes. Your brother's about to step in front of a bus he painted himself. What do I do? Do not warn him again. Patricia? I mean it. You have warned him for years. Now he's representing ownership he does not have. If he signs anything, it gets messier. Let him make the claim in front of witnesses, then correct the record before execution. That sounds cruel. No. Cruel would be letting investors wire money into a lie. Cruel would be letting employees believe their jobs are attached to a man committing fraud. Cruel would be letting your brother sell what you own because confrontation makes Thanksgiving awkward. I sat with that. Then she said, bring the documents. Bring me. And Megan? Yes? Wear something that makes you remember you own the room. The grand opening of Hollow Table South End was scheduled for Friday, September 14th. The second location was supposed to be Caleb's crowning moment. Technically, the lease had not been signed yet. That was the part he had hidden from everyone. Victor Lang had agreed to fund the second location after signing the investment agreement. Caleb had negotiated a letter of intent with a landlord using Hollow Table's name. He had promised authority he did not have. The grand opening was not a true opening. It was a staged investor event, a showcase, a performance, and Caleb was very good at performance. My mother called me the morning of Chiu. Megan, she said before hello, please don't make tonight difficult. I was standing in my bedroom, looking at 2 blazers on the bed. Good morning to you too, she sighed. You know what I mean. I rarely do, Mom. This is your brother's night. I looked at myself in the mirror. There it was, the family thesis. Caleb gets nights, Megan gets obligations. Is it? Megan, did he tell you what he's signing? He told me investors believe in him. Did he tell you I own the trademark? Silence. Then, why do you always have to hold that over him? I laughed quietly. Hold ownership over the person pretending to own things? He just wants to feel proud. At whose expense? He is your brother. And I am your daughter. She went quiet. I let her sit in it. Finally, she said the old line, you know how Caleb is... No, I said. I know how you let him be. I hung up. That night, I wore a black suit, a cream blouse, and the small gold watch I bought myself when I paid off my car. I parked in the lot behind the restaurant at 6:12 p.m. Patricia pulled in beside me at 6:15, carrying a slim legal folder. Do you want to walk in together? She asked. No, not yet. I looked through the windows. The restaurant glowed. People were laughing. Servers moved with trays of champagne. Caleb stood under the lights like a man who believed light meant ownership. Patricia followed my gaze. He's not expecting you to be calm. I'm not calm. You look calm. That's what matters. I opened my trunk and took out the accordion folder. It was heavier than it looked. At 6:32, I walked in, and that brings us back to the banner. Founded by Chef Caleb Holloway. Back to Caleb's smile. Back to Lena's hand on his arm. Back to my mother's tears and my father's silence. Back to the words, "You're just the bookkeeper." Back to the sentence that saved me from hesitation. Receipts don't make you an owner. Megan! Contracts do. I walked back into Hollow Table South End carrying the folder in both hands. This time, Patricia came in behind me. Caleb saw her first. His eyes moved from her face to the folder. Megan, he said, voice low. Don't. I stopped near Victor Lang's table. Mr. Lang? Victor looked up. Yes? My name is Megan Holloway. He stood because he had manners. I know who you are. That surprised me. You do? Your brother said you handle back office accounting. Caleb made a small sound behind me. I nodded. That is one of the things I do. Patricia stepped beside me. I'm Patricia Wells, counsel for Ms. Holloway and Hollow Table LLC. The attorney with the red folder sat up straighter. Victor looked at Caleb. Is there a problem? I opened the folder. Yes, I said. There is. My mother moved toward me. Megan, not here. I did not look at her. If Caleb can misrepresent ownership here, I can correct it here. The room had gone very quiet now. Even the jazz trio stopped between songs and did not begin another. Caleb laughed once. This is ridiculous. Then it should be easy to clear up, Patricia said. Victor looked at his attorney. His attorney looked at Patricia. That was when the energy shifted from family drama to legal danger. I handed Victor the first document. This is the commercial lease for the original Hollow Table location. He took it. Tenant? Patricia asked. Victor read. Megan Holloway. I handed him the second. This is the equipment financing agreement. Ovens, refrigeration, hood upgrades, furniture, POS system. Victor read. Borrower, Megan Holloway. Third document, trademark registration. His attorney reached for that one before he could. She read it, then looked at Caleb. Owner of Hollow Table Mark, Megan Holloway. Caleb's face had gone pale. Lena stood motionless near the bar. I handed over the operating agreement summary. This is the document Caleb signed before we opened. It states that he is executive chef and operating manager. It also states that equity discussion would only happen after 2 years of financial stability, no unauthorized spending, and consistent operational compliance. Victor's attorney asked, was that condition met? No. Caleb snapped, that's your opinion. Patricia took out another set of papers. Payroll advances, vendor defaults, unauthorized expenditures, and documented cash shortfalls covered by Miss Holloway personally. Caleb looked at me with pure hatred then. Not shame, not regret, hatred. Because shame says I did wrong. Hatred says, how dare you show them? Victor set the documents down slowly. Mr. Holloway, he said. Caleb straightened. Victor, this is a misunderstanding. Victor held up the investor packet. This document identifies you as founder and sole owner of Hollow Table Group. Yes. But are you legally authorized to sell 35% equity in Hollow Table? Caleb opened his mouth. No answer came out. Victor's attorney asked, are you a member of the LLC? Caleb looked at me. That was his mistake. Everyone saw it. No, I said. Patricia added, he is not. My mother stepped forward. Caleb built this restaurant. Everybody knows that. Victor looked at her. Ma'am, with respect, investors do not buy everybody knows. We buy ownership. My mother's face flushed. He is the chef. Yes, Victor said, and a chef can be valuable, but value is not title. Lena finally spoke. Her voice was quiet. Caleb. He turned toward her like she was rescue. Lena, baby, I can explain. She looked at the banner, then at the documents, then At me. You told me you used your savings. He swallowed. I was going to pay Megan back. That is not what you told me. It was complicated. No, she said, it was embarrassing. So, you lied. The room breathed in. Caleb's hands curled. Megan has always done this. I almost laughed. Done what? Made me look small. I looked around the restaurant, at the brass lights, at the green booths, at the bar I had paid for, at the employees whose paychecks had cleared because I stayed awake moving money between accounts at midnight. I made you look like a founder for 2 years, I said. You made yourself look small tonight, his face twisted. You'd destroy your own brother over paperwork? No, Caleb, you tried to sell my company with paperwork. Patricia placed one final packet on Victor's table. This is formal notice that Mr. Holloway does not have authority to represent Hollow Table LLC in equity negotiations, lease negotiations, trademark licensing, or expansion agreements. Any agreement signed by him tonight would be unauthorized. Victor closed the investor packet. We're done here. Caleb stepped forward. Wait. Victor looked at him. No. I can fix this. You can't own it by saying it louder. That line went through the room like a blade. Caleb looked at Lena. Please. She did not move. My mother started crying. Not soft tears, angry tears, the kind meant to make someone else feel guilty. Megan, how could you do this to him? I turned to her then, for the first time all night. I didn't do this to him. I lifted the folder slightly. I documented what he did to himself. She flinched. My father whispered, Meg. I looked at him. He had said almost nothing for 35 years when it mattered. He was not going to start with a nickname. No, I said. Just that. No. It was the smallest word I'd ever used to close the largest door. Caleb backed toward the bar. This place dies. Well, without me. That was when Tessa walked out of the kitchen. She was still in her chef coat, sleeves rolled, hair tied back, expression unreadable. No, she said. Everyone turned. Caleb stared at her. What? Tessa wiped her hands on a towel. The place doesn't die without you. He laughed in disbelief. Tessa, stay out of this. I've been staying out of it for a year. The kitchen staff gathered behind her. She looked at me once, then at Caleb. You missed 4 prep mornings last month. I covered them. You forgot the fall menu tasting with the food editor. I built the tasting menu. You took credit for the smoked trout dish, but Eli made that. You took credit for the charred cabbage, but I wrote that recipe after you said cabbage was depressing. A nervous laugh moved through the staff. Caleb's face darkened. Careful. Tessa stepped forward. No. I think careful is what got us here. I felt something open in my chest. Not triumph, air. For years, I thought I was the only one seeing it. I wasn't. Patricia leaned toward me. Now would be the time. I nodded. Tessa, she looked at me. Would you be willing to serve as interim executive chef while we complete an operational review? The kitchen went still. Caleb barked a laugh. You can't be serious. I did not look at him. Tessa, she swallowed. Yes. The line cooks behind her exchanged glances. Then Eli, the youngest one, said, I'll stay. The bartender said, me too. One server raised her hand slightly. Same. Then another. Then Bryce. The assistant manager who had once blocked me from my own kitchen looked like he wanted the floor to take him. I'll stay. He said quietly. Caleb looked around. For the first time, he saw what ownership really meant. Not applause, not interviews, not embroidered jackets, responsibility, trust. The things people give you when you have earned them, and he had not. I turned to Patricia. Proceed. She handed Caleb a letter. He did not take it. So she placed it on the bar. Effective immediately, she said. You are suspended from operational management pending audit. You are not authorized to represent Hollow Table, access financial systems, negotiate with vendors, or enter the kitchen outside scheduled review meetings. This is insane, Caleb said. No, Patricia replied. This is corporate governance. I almost smiled. Bookkeeper revenge has its own language. Lena removed her engagement ring. She did it quietly without drama, which made it worse. She placed it on the bar beside Patricia's letter. Caleb stared at it. Lena, you lied about the restaurant, she said. You lied about the money. You lied about your sister. You lied about yourself. I was trying to become the man you thought I was. She shook her head. You were trying to steal credit for being him. Then she walked out. My mother followed Caleb when he stormed toward the back hallway. Caleb. Wait! He pushed through the kitchen door. Tessa stepped aside but did not lower her eyes. The door swung shut behind him. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Victor Lang stood. Megan! I looked at him. I'm sorry for the position this put you in. That makes two of us. His mouth twitched. Your documentation is excellent. I'm just the bookkeeper. The room heard it. This time, nobody laughed. Victor picked up his coat. When you're ready to discuss expansion with accurate ownership and competent operations, call me. He handed me his card, then he left with his attorney. The grand opening ended without a ribbon cutting. The champagne went flat. The jazz trio packed up quietly. My mother left with Caleb, furious and wounded on his behalf, because apparently public fraud was less upsetting than public accountability. My father stayed until the room was almost empty. He stood by the door, turning his glass between his hands. Megan, I was putting documents back into the folder. Not tonight. He nodded. But he did not leave. I knew, he said. My hands stopped. I looked up. What? He looked older than he had an hour before. I knew you paid for most of it. Your mother did too. I waited. He swallowed. We thought he needed the confidence. I stared at my father. All the years of silence became one clear shape. You let me disappear so he could feel tall. He closed his eyes. I'm sorry. No, I said. You're ashamed? That's different. He looked at me like I had struck him. Maybe I had. Maybe truth feels violent when someone has spent years avoiding it. He left without another word. At 11:47 that night, I sat alone at the bar of Hollow Table South End. The staff had gone home. Tessa was in the kitchen labeling inventory because apparently some people respond to crisis by doing the work. Patricia had left after making sure the locks were changed on the office and Caleb's system access was frozen. The banner still hung by the entrance, founded by Chef Caleb Holloway. I stood on a chair and took it down myself. It folded badly, gold letters creasing across his name. I almost threw it away. Instead, I put it in the folder. Not because I wanted to remember the humiliation, because someday, if I ever forgot what it cost me to stop being useful to people who erased me, I wanted proof. The audit took 6 weeks. It was worse than I thought. Caleb had opened vendor accounts under the restaurant name without approval. He had promised catering discounts to friends who never paid. He had used the business debit card for personal hotel stays he categorized as market research. He had taken cash advances against future event deposits. He had been building the illusion of success by making the business absorb the cost of his image. Patricia said we could sue. I considered it. Not because I wanted money from him, he had none, but because some violations deserve a paper trail. In the end, we settled through counsel. Caleb signed a separation agreement. He gave up any claim to Hollow Table, any use of the name, any recipes developed on company time, and any representation that he founded or owned the business. In exchange, I did not pursue civil claims for unauthorized expenditures. My mother called it cruel. You took his dream, she said. I was in my office at the original location, reviewing a revised vendor schedule. No, I said. I stopped funding his costume. He is depressed. He should call a therapist. He's your brother. I know. I have receipts. She inhaled sharply. You've changed. Yes, I said. That's the first accurate thing you've said in months. She hung up. Caleb disappeared for a while. Not literally. He moved into my parents' guest room and posted vague quotes online about betrayal, loyalty, and snakes in the grass. People who knew nothing commented with prayer emojis. Lena sent me a message 3 days after the opening. I'm sorry I believed him. I replied, you believed the person you loved. That is not a crime. She wrote back, no. But ignoring small lies might be a warning. I stared at that for a long time. Then I typed, I ignored them too. That was the beginning of something like friendship. Not close. Not dramatic. Just two women comparing notes after loving different versions of the same lie. Tessa became executive chef officially in November. The first staff meeting without Caleb felt like walking into a room after a storm had passed and realizing the roof was still there. Tessa brought a notebook, a real one. Not a mood board, not a manifesto, a notebook with prep schedules, menu costing, labor concerns, vendor alternatives, and 3 dishes she wanted to test only if the numbers worked. I almost cried. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "I just really like spreadsheets." She smiled. I assumed. The restaurant changed, not overnight. There were customers who came asking for Caleb. Some left when they heard he was gone. Most stayed after eating. Food has a way of revealing who was actually cooking. Tessa's menu was quieter than Caleb's, but stronger. Less ego, better margins, more consistency. She kept the short ribs because customers loved them, but she changed the sides. She cut 3 expensive dishes that photographed well and sold poorly. She trained Eli on sauces. She promoted a line cook named Marisol to sous chef. Labor stabilized. Waste dropped. Reviews shifted from Chef Caleb's bold vision to hollow table finds its footing with a warmer, sharper menu. I printed that review and taped it inside the office cabinet. Not in the dining room. I had learned the difference between pride and performance. 3 months after the opening, Victor Lang called. "I hear the food is better," he said. Hello to you too." He chuckled. I'd like to come in for dinner." Quietly. No investors, no papers, just dinner. He came on a Wednesday. He sat at table 12, ordered the trout, then the cabbage, then dessert. Afterward, he asked to speak with me and Tessa. We sat in the back office because I had no interest in performing near the bar. Victor looked at Tessa first. "That was excellent." She nodded. "Thank you." Then he looked at me. "You still interested in expansion?" I thought about the banner, the ring on the bar. Caleb's face when Victor asked if he had authority. My mother's voice asking how I could do that to him. Then I thought about Tessa's notebook, about payroll clearing without panic, about the staff staying, about the business belonging to the people who actually showed up. "Not yet," I said. Victor smiled. "Good answer." He stood. "When you are, call me. This time I'll be investing in the right Holloway." After he left, Tessa looked at me. "You know he meant you." "I know. You looked uncomfortable." "I'm not used to being visible." She nodded like she understood. Visibility has a learning curve. The reopening happened in January. Not a grand opening. I refused that phrase. It was a relaunch dinner for loyal customers, staff families, vendors who had stuck with us, and a few local writers who cared more about food than personality cults. No champagne tower, no banner with one man's name, no speeches about genius, just good service, warm lights, honest menus, and a small brass plaque near the host stand. Hollow Table. Founded by Megan Holloway. Kitchen led by Tessa Grant. Built by the people who stayed. I did not want the plaque. Tessa insisted. Patricia seconded. Even Lena, who photographed the relaunch, said, "Let people read the truth without needing a court order." So I allowed it. My mother did not come. My father did. He arrived alone, wearing a gray sweater and the expression of a man who had rehearsed an apology and knew it would not be enough. I seated him at the bar. Not as punishment, as geometry. Some people do not belong at the center of your life anymore, but that does not mean they cannot sit somewhere near the edge and behave. He looked at the plaque for a long time. Then he said, "It should have said that from the beginning." I was tired of late truths, but I accepted this one because it did not ask anything from me. "Yes," I said, "it should have." He nodded. "I'm proud of you." The words landed strangely. 10 years earlier, they might have filled something. Now they simply found no empty place to enter. "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. But I did not need it. That was the difference. Lena took photos that night. Not the glossy fake kind where everyone pretends work is effortless. And real ones. Tessa laughing in the kitchen with flour on her sleeve. Marisol plating dessert. Eli holding up a tray with exaggerated seriousness. Me at the host stand, checking reservations. A pen behind my ear, wearing the same gold watch. At one point, Lena lowered the camera. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you miss him?" I knew who she meant. Caleb. I looked toward the kitchen. "I miss who I kept trying to help him become." She nodded. "That makes sense." "Do you?" She looked at her camera. I miss who I thought he was. We stood there together, two women grieving men who had existed mostly in potential. Then Tessa called from the kitchen. Megan, table 6 wants to know who made the cabbage. I smiled. Tell them the owner recommends it. Lena laughed. A real laugh, the kind that comes after something heavy starts moving off your chest. At the end of the night, after the last guests left and the chairs were turned over on the tables, I walked through the restaurant alone. The lights were low. The kitchen was clean. The bar smelled faintly of citrus and wood polish. I stopped by the host stand and touched the brass plaque, founded by Megan Holloway. I thought it would feel like victory. It felt more like accuracy. And maybe that is what I had wanted all along. Not applause, not revenge, not even gratitude, accuracy. For the story to match the documents. For the work to match the credit. For the people who benefited from my silence to finally hear what the paper had been saying all along. Caleb texted me that night, first time in months. I heard it went well. I looked at the message for a long time. Then another came through. I'm sorry. No explanation, no excuse, just 2 words. I did not answer immediately. Old Megan would have. Old Megan would have called, comforted, managed. Translated his shame into something easier for him to carry. New Megan put the phone on the bar and finished closing. The next morning I replied, I hope you mean that enough to become different. He did not respond. Maybe someday he would, maybe not. That was no longer my responsibility. 6 months later, Hollow Table was profitable for the first time without emergency transfers from my savings. Tessa's cabbage dish made a regional magazine. Victor came back twice, once with his wife, once with 2 business partners. I still did not sign anything. Expansion could wait until growth was healthy, not hungry. My mother slowly stopped calling me cruel and started calling me stubborn, which in her vocabulary was a demotion from villain to inconvenience. My father came for dinner once a month and paid his bill every time, even when I told him he didn't have to. I think paying was the only apology he understood how to repeat. Caleb got a job as a line cook in Charleston. Not executive chef, not founder, line cook. He lasted 3 months, then 6, then 9. One day he sent me a picture of a prep list with his handwriting on it. No caption, just the list. I stared at it and smiled despite myself. Maybe that was his first honest document. I did not offer him a job. I did not offer money. I did not offer rescue. I sent back, good. Keep showing up. That was all. A year after the night he called me just the bookkeeper, I found the old banner in my storage closet, founded by Chef Caleb Holloway. I had forgotten I kept it. For a moment, I considered throwing it away. Then I brought it to the office, cut out one small piece, and taped it inside my private file cabinet behind the original lease. Not his name, not the gold letters, just the word founded, a reminder. Founding something does not always look like standing in front of cameras. Sometimes it looks like signing a lease alone. Sometimes it looks like crying in a back office and still running payroll. Sometimes it looks like paying invoices no one thanks you for. Sometimes it looks like being called just the bookkeeper in a room full of people. Then opening a folder and letting the truth do what truth does best. Stand there, unmoved, uncharmed, unembarrassed. My brother was right about one thing. Receipts do not make you an owner, but signatures do. And every signature that mattered was mine.